Yesterday I got a chance to demo the newly redesigned Transition Scout, which is their mid-travel 27.5 trail bike, 150 in the front, 140 in the back. So this video is going to be, I guess, somewhat of a review. I typically don't do a review of a bike. I'll do a first look and maybe a first ride, but I don't call it a review until I've spent time on it. So really it's just talking about my experience demoing the bike yesterday. Before I tell you my thoughts on the bike, I'm going to show a video clip of me talking to Dylan with Transition Bikes, and he's going to talk through the bike and some of the changes that they made. Okay, so I'm here with Dylan from Transition Bikes, and I want to ask you about the Scout. So I test rode it today, and I absolutely loved it. So first of all, 27.5 is dead.
Absolutely not.
No way. I mean, like, you know, you can't believe the stuff you read on the forum, because I'm testing 27.5 and I just, man, this bike rocks. So
it's more alive than ever.
And so you guys just redesigned it.
We did.
And that tells me that there's still a lot of guys out there who want 27.5. So what's some of the stuff that you guys did on the redesign?
Okay, redesign. I guess the most notable thing is lengthening the travel. So going to 140 in the rear, leaving clearance to put a longer stroke shock to make it 150 if you choose to.
So it comes 140, but you can do a 150 if you want to.
Right, same eye to eye on the shock, so you're not throwing the geo off at all, and then you're lengthening the stroke. Okay. So you can go 150 back there. 150 in the front. The kinematics and the suspension design is revamped, so it's a more progressive design, long story short.
Yeah, and I noticed that when I was riding it.
Yeah.
Like, I normally like a pretty linear feeling bike, but when I got on that thing, just how it popped out a corner, I was like, okay, I kind of get the progression here.
So then, we lengthened it, so it's longer. 480 reach on this medium, 485, excuse me, instead of 450, which it was in the past, previous model. And then working with that new design in the rear, making it more progressive, keeps that kind of lively nature that the Scout's always had, being just a fun play bike that loves to jib, loves to manual, loves to pop. Loves to get in the air.
Yeah, really good bike, and appreciate you guys coming down to the Santos Fat Tire Festival, and we're gonna keep riding.
Absolutely.
All right, thanks.
Party
Dylan.
on. Yeah. Cheers.
So before I demoed the Scout yesterday, I was on my Transition Sentinel, which is their 29er Enduro bike, 160 in the front, 140 in the back. Absolutely love that bike, but the trails that I was riding yesterday were pretty tight and twisty, a little technical, and the Sentinel on the really tight stuff just felt a little sluggish. That bike, you really have to get it up to speed to come alive. And man, when you get the Sentinel up to speed, it does come alive. And it's nimble, it's agile, but still stable. I love that bike. But when I jumped on the Scout, I felt like that bike was absolutely made for the trails that I was riding. The bars were a little bit lower. The bike felt so much more manageable. It felt like I could brake later. It felt like I could accelerate. I could get around the rocks. I could hop it over stuff. Honestly, the Scout, when I was riding it, felt like it was 5 pounds lighter than the Sentinel. I don't know the weight of the bike. I may try to find that out and put it on the screen for this video. The Sentinel weighs about 32 pounds the way I have it set up. Pretty much stock, just pulling the tubes out and putting stand sealing in. But the Scout felt so much lighter. And like I said, more manageable. The bike that I rode yesterday was a medium. I'm 5 feet 8 inches, and it felt absolutely perfect. I did hear one of the guys in the transition tent tell somebody who was 5'9" that they could be on a medium or a large, so they were right on the border. So a medium could go, I think, up to about 5'9", maybe 5'10". So use that for reference in case you're interested in a Scout. Something else I liked about the Scout was how low the standover height was, which allows you to run a pretty long dropper post. I don't know the length of the dropper post, the one that I was riding yesterday. I'll put that on the screen right now, but it was long. And I like the fact that you can run a longer dropper post because you could really get the saddle out of the way. The Scout felt so precise in the corners. Some bikes can feel a little flexy. The transition frames tend to be a little bit burlier, so they may weigh a little bit more than some of their counterparts, but that hugely pays off in the ride quality because that frame felt supple on the bumps, but the lateral stiffness was phenomenal. I felt like when I put the bike into a corner, it held it without flexing, and that's, to me, that's one of the qualities that I look for now in a frame. What really impressed me about the Scout was how good the geometry felt. That bike has a 64-degree head angle, the new one. and a pretty steep seat tube angle. I want to say it's like 77.7. So on paper, those numbers look like a bike that would be sluggish, and it was anything but sluggish. I can't explain it. Maybe it was the fact that I went from an enduro bike, a 29er enduro bike at that, from that to a 27.5 trail bike with less travel. But I'm telling you, that Scout felt so stable. It reminds me a lot of the Niner Rip 9 27.5. In fact, today I'm going to go out on the 27.5 Niner and kind of just I'm doing a time trial today, but I really want to see, how I like that bike compared to the Scout yesterday. One of the things that Transition has done with the Scout was they changed they put a new chainstay guard on it. So a lot of the bike companies now are putting those ridges on the chainstay protector to keep the chain from making noise. And some other things that they did, like Dylan said, they changed the geo a bit. You can put a shock on it to make it 150 in the back. The thing that impressed me most about the Scout was just how agile and nimble it felt, but also stable. And I think that's the 64-degree head angle. Again, if I saw a 64 head angle on paper 3 years ago, I would have said that's a downhill bike. Another thing that really impressed me about the Scout was how well it pedaled. And that bike has a more progressive leverage curve, and they built that into the frame. And normally I like a linear feeling shock, but I really like the progression, we'll say, of that frame, of that shock. And like I said, the way that it pedaled, normally, well, let's say this, some horse link designs can be it feels like it's just wallowing when you try to pedal hard. This bike, when I got on it, it doesn't use the VPP style suspension. It's pretty much a horse link design. Transition calls it giddy up suspension, and they've done a great job with that suspension, because when I got on the gas, that thing went. I felt like I could put some smaller tires and like cross country race that thing, but yet when I hit the rough stuff, the thing felt so stable. So that's just kind of a quick review of the bike. I may try to get one in as a demo and do a long-term review of the Scout, because I want to get some more miles on that bike. It's just, man, it felt really good. Questions, comments, as always, drop those below. Thanks for watching.